Okay, and we're moving on. And people were talking about the Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fight, and I've seen a lot of broadcasters, specifically Timothy Bradley, coming at um, Ryan Garcia for the 3.2 pounds being over in the weight or whatever, which I get understood. And he's been calling for a rematch and all of this. I say that to say I watched Regis progress, and he came out and said it's crazy that nobody feels bad for me. And he said in the contract and the rules of the WB, I think it was the WBC, Devin Haney took his belt after being over the weight limit. And he says he don't hear an outcry. Now I say that because Timothy Bradley has never even spoken on that. But yet with Ryan Garcia, he has. So I went and looked up the rules, right? I think it was for the WBC or WB. I'm not sure. I forgot. I got it in here. I got to look at it. And the day of the weigh-in, right? The day you weigh in, you are only allowed to gain 10% of the weight in that fight. So if you're 140, you're only allowed to go up to 154. And we all know that Devin Haney went up to 165, and there was nobody that said anything, specifically these individuals. Now, Timothy Bradley, of course, is a champion. He's done all these things. Do you feel like he's attacking Ryan more so because of personal issues? Because he should know the rules, right? And I couldn't believe it when I read the rules. I was like, wait a minute, like, why isn't nobody complaining about Prograis losing his belt for this man showing up at 165? What's your take on this whole situation? And did you know about the 10% rule in at the WBC?
I know the IBF has a 10-pound rule. Um, I didn't know, and I'm pretty sure that whatever the contract says, like rules, there's no set rules, right? If a contract, it's all about what's in the contract. If the
Well,
contract says you could hydrate 30 pounds, no, right? Or am I wrong?
no, so in the WBC, this is what it says. It says, I'm reading right now. This was passed in 2019, and then it goes on to now. It says the WBC, which has long been at the forefront of drug testing and fighter safety among boxing's major sanctioning organizations, is stepping up its commitment to making sure fights safely make weight. WBC President Mauricio, I forgot his name, on Tuesday unveiled a series of initiatives the sanctioning body has instituted beyond its already long established mandatory weight checks for world title fights, which are required 30 days and 7 days before the bout, at which time the boxer must be only a certain percentage above the division weight limit. One of the top priorities of the WBC for 2019 will be the introduction of the new weight management program, which is intended to protect the health of the fighters above everything. We will need, this is what Sullivan said, we will need the collaboration for promoters, matchmakers, managers, trainers, boxing commissions, boxing federations, press, and of course the fighters themselves. Then let me see, go here. They said the promoter must require each boxer and their management to submit WBC the precise weight that he or she is at the time of signing the bout. That's what Solomon said. There has also been another weight check added to the schedule besides weight checks 30 and 7 days before the bout, where there will be 14 days ahead of the fight. A fighter cannot be more than 10% after the division limit 30 days out, 5% 14 days before the fight, and 3% 7 days before the fight, going into the fight, right? Weight. According to the new rules, the promoter must arrange with the local athletic commission and WBC's supervisors to have a scale ready at the site of the bout in order to have both boxers weighed upon arrival on the day of the fight. And boxers must not have gained more than 10% of the weight from the official weigh-in the previous day.
Okay.
Okay, so 10% of 140 is 14 pounds, right? He says punishments according to the new rules can range from 5,000 to up to 30% of the person, and as well as having the WBC withdraw its sanction of a bout. Okay, he showed up at 165. That is actually it's 11 pounds over the weight limit at 140. So he was allowed to get up to 154. And I thought Prograis was full of shit when I first seen it. But that's actually the rules of that belt that they can, not make it a title fight or whatever the hell it is, and you can be fine. Now, Timothy Bradley is a journalist, and nobody is bringing this up about Devin Haney and Regis Prograis, but they're killing Ryan Garcia and they're demanding a rematch. And I feel like it's an extreme bias in the situation because, if anything, Regis Prograis should be getting a rematch. Am I wrong with that?
Why should Regis get the rematch?
So when he fought Regis Prograis, right, for the belt, he lost the belt to Ryan to Devin, right? Devin Haney was at 165 pounds, but he could only legally, according to the rules, went up to 154. He couldn't surpass it, and won the belt damn near at a super middleweight weight. So that's what I'm saying. How are they calling for a rematch with Devin Haney because he missed the weight by 3.2 pounds, but aren't speaking on the Regis Prograis situation?
Because that wasn't as big of an upset, and that didn't have Regis going around talking about children being raped and with his shirt off and acting like a psychopath and generating tons of publicity. And Regis doesn't have 20 million followers. That's why.
But that's not fair. Like you can't have rules for one person and not the other, or views. You can't listen. As a journalist, right, you have to have some type of a level of respect, right? You have to call it down the middle. And I've been watching just interview after interview of Tim Bradley going in on Ryan, and I'm like, I get it. It's personal. He told you SMD, whatever. But why isn't there? Why was there never an outcry for Regis Prograis? And if anything, people were patting Devin Haney on the back and saying, look how amazing he looked. Look, he looked unbeatable. He's top 10 pound for pound. This guy's the man. Yet none of those individuals complained about that. Nobody said Regis should get a rematch. And in the rules, it specifically says that. I think it's absolutely insane and it's irresponsible.
Wait, the rules say what? He should get a rematch?
No. The rules basically, you're not allowed to come in after that weight, and they can be the bout could be non-sanctioned. Like they can basically disqualify them out.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, none of that's it. There's no actual repercussions. There's no set in stone rules in boxing. It's not like the
this
NBA.
is actually a new rule, though. This is actually a rule for the WBC.
Right, but what I mean is, it's not enforced at all. There's no rules. There's nobody that enforces rules in boxing because what?
Yeah, we just had someone die last week. I forgot his name.
Yeah, African, or I think it was Africa.
And a lot of that is because head injuries. You're literally having a guy show up at middle. Like he looked substantially way bigger than Prograis. Like it is what it is. Why aren't these rules being like followed? It doesn't even make sense. Like,
it's not about safety. What? You can lose money. That's not about safety.
It's true.
The only thing that's about safety is if they say the fight's canceled. That's a
he said he could cancel the fight. That's what he said in the rules.
Yeah, you read that. I didn't. You read a bunch of stuff, but that was barely even mentioned. It was more like it's all about money. It won't be sanctioned. You'll lose money. If that's about safety, it's not. Safety would just say they can't fight. They don't care about safety. They care about money. And these fighters need to know better for themselves and have people advising them better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe don't fight somebody who's not in your weight division. How about that?
I mean, but
how about let's stop all the shedding pounds, and how about just don't fight people that aren't in your division? Fight in what your natural division should be.
So you feel like, you feel like, and let me get this right, that it should be taken out of the fighter's hand. In other words, if Ryan showed up at that weight, it should have been canceled automatically. It should have been like, you know what?
I don't think 3 pounds is a big deal. I don't think 3 pounds or 3.2, whatever it was, I don't think that's a big deal at all. The average human body fluctuates 5 pounds every day. You, me, everybody throughout the day will be 5 pounds heavier, 5 pounds lighter every day.
So
So
do you
that
think
doesn't mean shit.
Okay, the 3 pounds may not mean a lot. Okay, they agreed to fight it. But how about going up to 165 when you're a 140-pound fighter? That's 25 pounds.
It's also just as detrimental for the fighter who's doing it as it is. You're looking at it, I guess, as like, oh, he's going in there with somebody so much heavier. But it's also seriously detrimental to a fighter who has to drop that much weight. They
Mm,
can it's awful for them. It's hard, they're weak, they're fucking their brains are the fluids around the brain that protects the brain into smashing against the skull.
yeah.
That's depleted. It's just a
I mean,
bad situation.
Devin
Both.
looked a lot better at that fight, to be honest with you. People will say that. So do you believe that maybe in terms of the rules that it should be taken out of the fighter's hands, that decision at that point, that it should be the commission? Because he says we need all of the governing bodies to come together, and even the promoters. That's what they were saying. Do you feel like it needs to be taken out of the fighter's hands? So let's say if that's the case, the weight thing is a big thing, then it shouldn't be left up to the fighters to make that decision to make it happen. If we're talking about
Um,
safety,
yeah. I mean, I you don't want to get me started. Like I don't like any of this weight stuff. I think they should weigh in the same day. I think they should weigh in literally right before they walk into the ring. That's what I think they should do. Now the problem is, and there's ways around it. You can figure it out. If somebody's way over or way under, then the fight gets canceled. Everybody loses money. You have fans there, so it's tough. But I don't think there should be day before. I think there should be day of
yeah,
weigh-ins, and maybe people just need to bite the bullet. Maybe it's a thing where, look, if the person misses weight, the fight's canceled, and the fighter not only doesn't get paid, but maybe owes money for doing that. And the fans, unfortunately, that's just what they have to deal with. They have to come back another time, get their money back, and everybody just loses.
it's a difficult thing because boxing, I mean, combat sports, period, is based on weight, right? Weight classes. Like the NFL, NBA, it's not. You can have, you got guys at 300 pounds, you got guys that are 180. They're all playing, right? But in boxing, you're losing individuals, like literally dying, right? And those events, they're not as frequent, right? So if you have a big money event, and you're right, I do believe that it is run by money, and the health is the last thing that people are thinking about in these fights. And
Yeah.
it is kind of messed up. You got to think about it. Like if they would have canceled that Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fight, you know how many millions of dollars at that point? But now we're talking about money over somebody's possible life and health. It's just one of those things that it's tough in that decision. And I don't know, and like we had spoken about this before, about the fact that none of these belts, or there's no real organization. It's basically it's all about money. So I don't know, man. It's tough. I mean, but you are a fighter, so you've experienced this. You've probably fought guys that you knew shouldn't have been in your division, that they were way bigger. And that's
Mm, yeah. I mean, not me so much personally, but I've seen it with in the sport.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. But the fact is, I don't think Ryan's weight had anything really to do with this fight turning out the way it did. They're
Yeah,
very comparable in height. They're very comparable in stature.
yeah.
They're the same weight, those two.
You know, it's crazy, and that's why I was bringing up the Timothy Bradley thing, and I think it's more of a personal thing with him. And he's actually said it. He's actually said, "I don't like Ryan Garcia." Even when he's complimenting him for winning, he has a little underhanded things being said. But I just don't like. Listen, if you don't like Ryan Garcia, it is what it is. You know what I mean? He's not for everybody. But my thing is like you have to be fair across the board because Regis Prograis is not getting that same support from a Timothy Bradley, and he kind of went through it as well. So I don't know. That's why I
Well,
was asking. Like, I mean, the biased media shit, I'm not a big fan of.
I mean, Regis Prograis was never a pound for pound fighter, so he's not going to get the same considerations, as
But he
a
lost
pound
the
for
belt.
pound great would get.
He lost the belt though. Like, yeah, I feel like Ryan is being targeted by a lot of these people. And listen, Ryan, he's definitely not the most politically correct individual. He says what he wants, doesn't care, and I think a lot of people do not appreciate Ryan Garcia for what he's been doing, and he seems to be getting more popular by the minute. I mean, he's opening up shows, he's making music. Like it's he's going viral everywhere. My wife doesn't even watch boxing, and she's watching his videos and stuff. So it's been really interesting, and I feel like a lot of that's coming from hate, but it is what it is
Mm.
at that point. Let's move forward.